which is the best software to use for running your pest control business. Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business. Hey there, and welcome to another edition of the Pest Geek podcast. This is Frank Hernandez, your Pest Geek. I'm back, and I've been out for a week. We didn't produce a podcast last week, and I have a very, very good excuse. I was actually on my Mondays, which is my recording day. I was in surgery getting a bilateral hernia repair, and I was struggling all week. I was trying to do a podcast earlier during the week, but I was trying to tie up all my loose ends in the business before I took off, because I knew I was going to be out for a minimum of 10 days and about 30 days on limited work. So I decided not to record a podcast because I didn't want to just throw something together to throw it out there and have a podcast. I usually think through my podcast. But yes, I've been, the surgery went well. I had much less pain than I thought I was going to have, except when I move. And for 3 days, I had to relearn how to get in and out of bed. The worst part about this whole surgery is listening to my wife, how that doesn't compare to childbirth and a C-section. I mean, about the only thing I can do that would equal that, I think, in life is to be gutted like a fish in the back alley somewhere where I agonize in pain for hours. Other than that, I don't think anything compares to childbirth and a C-section. But other than that, yeah, she's been wonderful. She's taken care of me. She took days off from work and just to take care of me because I couldn't get out of bed by myself. It was very, very painful when I sat up, very painful if you coughed, very painful if you sneezed, very painful if you laughed. Other than that, the Percocet worked wonderful. It been a wonderful experience, and but I'm back. I'm back now. I'm able to walk around, do things after about a week, and so it's I'm recovering slowly but surely. So it's been overall a very good experience. I thought it was going to be a lot worse with the pain. I'm just not very good with pain, and so that was it. So if you're wondering why I didn't record a podcast, man, I hope this excuse gets me off the hook. So talking about what I want to talk about, which is the best software to run and operate your pest control business. And we live in an age of apps, and we live in such a great time right now for software, because there's just anything that we probably need, there's an app for that. But a lot of the things in running a pest control business and running it as a business professionally, and to the point where you're keeping track of your income, your expenses, you understand costs, you're able to do real accounting work. You really need accounting software. And there's a big difference between a lot of the software that's out there today, offering you very ease of just creating invoices and invoicing your customer and taking payments. That's really one small aspect of running a business. And you need good accounting. And you need to be able to track your expenses. You need to be able to track costs. You need to be able to understand profitability, cash flow, things that you're going to need to give to your accountant, make your life and his life a lot easier for accounting purposes at the end of the year, for tax planning. So you really need good software. And the problem with software is that most people are intimidated by this issue of software. Before I go on, I wanted to acknowledge some people that have liked us, have contacted us and given us just reviews and things, and I want to acknowledge them. I want to acknowledge Sean McGill at McGill Pest Management Solutions in Kewanee, Illinois. Kewanee is right up near on the northeast part between Chicago, near the Mississippi River, somewhere around there. And hey, thanks for reaching out to us on Facebook, liking us, and for liking us on Facebook and following us there. And also Brown Yard Group. They're at PCO Pro on Twitter. Their insurance policy to meet the complex needs of pest control operators. Thank you for following us on Twitter, and big shout out to you guys for doing that, and thank you all for listening. Some have reached out to us. Hey, what happened? I haven't heard the podcast, and so I just I really do thank you for that. Some people have wished me well. They knew I was getting surgery, and thank you for that. Thank you for looking out for us too. So, and also I wanted to give you the tech tip of the week. If you're like me, I'm very sensitive to dusts and allergens. I have some of a slight. I have a slightly deviated septum, so I'm my nose is always probably why I sound nasal a lot of the times. I'm also very sensitive to dust and things like that, pollen. I do have a little bit of sinus problems and some allergies. Not very serious, but I try to, protect myself from that so I don't have to constantly be doing nasal cleansing and taking any medication for it. I just hate doing that. So one of the things that I do use a lot, especially when I'm doing any dusting or any place where there's roaches or allergens, is use a respirator. But I don't want to use my cartridge respirator inside a house. It's very uncomfortable. The one I use for misting outside and things like that. So I use the 3M particle respirator. It's it's much better than just a dust mask. It controls about 95% filtration against solids and liquid aerosol. So if you're doing a little bit of aerosol spraying underneath a counter somewhere and some of that flush back at you or in the air, you don't want to be taking that in when you're in a close quarter, like underneath a cabinet. It's a great, piece of equipment to have for your safety, and it's very inexpensive. $21.47 at Home Depot. You can buy it at any Home Depot. The model number is 8210PPB1-A. I do have a link to it on the show notes, so you can go there and link to it and check it out. It's less than $1. A mask, and it'll last you for several uses, so you don't have to replace one every day. I mean, you can probably use this a whole week, depending on the activity that you're doing, and you're going to spend less than $1 to protect yourself for this. So I think it's a great deal if you're looking for a better than just a dust mask or something less than your respirator. I think this is the in-between route, and it's very good. Now, to answer the question on what is the best software? I get, this is probably one of the top 5 questions I get on the podcast, and I get from people in the field that I talk to. A lot of people are still using paper invoices on site. If they're using, they're not, most of them have some type of an accountant or a bookkeeper that they submit all their invoices to the end of the week to input them, and their receipts and their gas receipts and all of their bills, and then they get some type of report. Me, I'm running a company. I am interested in knowing where my numbers are, every minute, and I want to know at the end of the month what my cash flow is, what I can project. I'm running a business. I'm not running a hobby, and I want to know what the real numbers are, because I have to know. We used to do more services, but we now, 95% of, which I'm going to start talking more and getting into. I just thought there were more pressing issues to discuss in the pest control industry than what I do, and my specialty, which is lawn and ornamental, mainly ornamental and trees and palms, which is what's big down here. And 95% of all my business has always been that. That's what makes our business. Okay. And the other 5% of GHP and stuff like that is from our existing customers. But I needed to know, when I started out in the industry, I was asking suppliers, and I was asking manufacturers, and I was asking the people in the industry, where should my cost be? And of course, the numbers that they threw at me of where my cost needed to be for cost of goods and all this was based on their idea of what they thought would have to make to do good lawn and ornamental, and based on, their idea of what they actually would like to sell in the industry. And of course, after about a year of that, I started saying, this is outrageous, this what we're spending. We need to get a handle on this. And I'm all about lean, and I'm all about lean management and being as lean as possible. So I focus on numbers. And I said, we need to get these numbers down to this. This is our goal. My goal was to be a totally paperless company. So from my experience in software, my experience in point of sale system, I've been using software for accounting since the late 80s. I mean, the way I got my A in accounting class wasn't from my accounting knowledge, but for understanding the software and being able to teach the other students in the class how to use the software. I would assist the professor in that because he was great at accounting, but being in accounting, he was still a double entry bookkeeping type of guy on a ledger, and software was starting to come into the market, and he didn't understand it. But I have this great aptitude for understanding application software. And most of my adult life, I involved in doing a lot of teaching and training on application software, point of sale software, and a lot of this it comes from that. So I understand it, and I understand a lot of the frustrations from doing tons of training on software of where people's frustration is with software and what their apprehension is. All this is why a lot of people, I just got an email through Facebook on, what software am I using for my route management and for invoicing, because they're doing paper invoices in the field, taking it back to the office, and then inputting those invoices into QuickBooks. And I say, the amount of time that you're spending doing all this is so unnecessary, because you're doing the work twice, and you're paying somebody to do work that they could do once, or maybe not even do it at all. And I'm going to show you through this podcast how we did it and how we were able to. I don't have an admin. My wife used to do all of my bookkeeping. My wife used to do and the problem was that it was still this is in the wrong category. This didn't get inputted right. This wasn't done this way. Calling me on the field. How do we get this done? How do we do this? And this went on for about a year. And I said, we have software to do this, and I'm going to make it my goal that I actually don't need you to do this. And I don't need anyone to do it. It's going to be completely automated. And I invested time. I invested lots of time into setting up the software the right way to be able to automate just about 90% of what we do. And my goal is always that 80-20 rule. Can I get somebody or something else to do it much cheaper than I could do it so that I can focus on the business? At one point, I was in the business, working in the business, and at one point I had to step back and say, it's time for me to start working on the business. And that's what I do. 80% of my time, I try to spend working on the business, not in the business. And that is going to free you up, because what you can't buy these days, the only thing you can't buy is time. You can buy resources, you can buy equipment, you can buy just about anything you want. You just can't buy time. And what you choose to do with that time, whether it's be able to do more sales, be able to do more service, take some extra time off, spend more time with your family, I think you need to be able to prioritize that. And then software is going to help you do this. I mean, what I spend on software a year is about 10% of what I would have to do if I had to have somebody do it. So 90% of my savings is I invested in software and in specific software to solve specific problems that I would have to hire somebody to do it. and pay them, and then still have to have meetings, still have to have an understanding. And don't get me wrong, there's going to come a time when that is necessary. But if you don't need it, then the idea is, can you do it with much less time, much less effort, much less cost, much less people to deal with until you have to do it? And that's what I've been doing. My first experience with software was Peachtree Accounting in running businesses back in the early 80s. And then later I switched in the 90s when, with QuickBooks, we switched over to QuickBooks. And we've used QuickBooks for all of our business. We use desktop. And everywhere I've been, every business I've started, it's QuickBooks. I made the switch about almost 2 years ago to only QuickBooks Online. We were still studying QuickBooks Online. It was new. QuickBooks Online was cloud-based. The cloud-based environment, it wasn't there yet, and I didn't feel it was there yet to make the switch. We had a server-based type of system with QuickBooks where we could be in the field and do it mobile, but it wasn't cloud-based. It was still a computer back in the office, kind of like a server, but we were able to do in the field for years. We've been paperless. I haven't done a paper invoice in the field since 2009. We were completely paperless. I'm in the field. I wasn't about to do invoices. I come from the field, and I also come from the corporate environment. And there's one thing that I hate is doing paperwork. Any technician that's out in the field trying to be productive, the last thing you want to do is drown them in paperwork. And if you can reduce the paperwork, and you can reduce the paperwork by 5 minutes a stop, that's 5 minutes that you gain. At the end of the day, if you have 10 stops, if you have 8 stops, that's almost an hour that you gain a day by using software. You multiply that on a weekly basis, you multiply that on a monthly basis, you multiply that on a yearly basis when you're paying somebody a salary to do something, and those hours add up to real dollars that you save into the tune of hundreds, even thousands of dollars by automating. And a lot of the resistance that people have to automating their business is that they're intimidated by the software of what they don't know. And I got to tell you that in an age like today of Twitter and social media and having an iPhone, I was constantly on top of QuickBooks. Like, when are you going to have a real mobile version? I mean, we've been now with smartphones for 2 years. You should have had, a company your size should have had. And I kept looking and looking and looking until finally they were able to do a real mobile app. So we're like 95% paperless in our business. We don't use paper in the field. We use everything to keep track of everything on software, mobile. And now with iPad, it makes it a whole lot easier. But for the longest, I just did it off of my small. I even have I still have my iPhone 3, 4, and now I'm up to an iPhone 6 Plus. And I've used it all on those little gadgets because you can. So converting from your paper, from spreadsheets to actual software. Now, let me explain the difference between what a lot of the software that's out in the market and QuickBooks, and why I will stay with QuickBooks unless something drastic happens or something superior to QuickBooks. And there is nothing out there superior to QuickBooks, and nothing superior to QuickBooks Online. They're different. They're not better. You have something like FreshBooks. Well, FreshBooks is invoicing software. There are a lot of companies out there that do invoicing software, many apps for invoicing software. But invoicing is just one dynamic. And what I love about QuickBooks is they've done a very good job with invoicing and accounting. They still have a little bit ways to go. There's some things I wish I would see with them that the other companies have, but that's only a short time down the line before that happens. With invoicing software, you're very limited. It's just about invoicing. And then you still have to go back and you still have to do your gas and you still have to do all your payments and your chemicals and everything that you do. What the beautiful thing about QuickBooks and using QuickBooks, especially the online version that we're using, if you're doing desktop and you're still invoicing the paper, that's hideous. you're just investing a huge amount of time. But with the accounting part, I can take my bank account, my credit card, and my debit cards, and I link it to the software. And what used to take me 2 to 3 hours a month in accounting work now takes me about 10 to 20 minutes a month. That's how much I spend on accounting a month to do all of my bookkeeping. Second of all, I probably spend more time on it than the average bear will, because I'm very meticulous about my numbers. I need to know, and I keep all my sales items and all our services are completely itemized. So I know where my L&O stands. I know where my mosquito service stands. I know where my GHP stands. I know the cost of goods for every one of those services. We do palm services, and I want to know down to where our palm services are profitable, our tree services, our lawn services. So we keep track of how many thousands, hundreds of thousands of square feet we do of lawn and what it's costing us to do the lawn. It isn't all bundled together because the problem is you can't find leakage. And you have to be meticulous about your numbers, especially when you go from a single operator to a multi-route unit, where now you have people that probably aren't going to be as careful to take care of your cost and your inventory, and you have to be able to find leakage. And what I love about the QuickBooks software is now all my accounting is all linked. The software starts learning as you start putting things in categories. It learns and says, oh, well, you went to this gas station. You go to this gas station 3 times a week or twice a week or once a week. You go to these gas stations. We know that that's gas. All you have to do really at the end of the week, on the end of the day, at the end of the month, is really approve and put it where it is. There's no double entry bookkeeping with this. It's eliminated. So you basically just approve it and your accounting's done. At the end of the year, I give my P&L to my accountant and he does our taxes for the company. You give them you get a cash flow analysis, you can give them your balance sheet. It's all done. And that's probably one of the hardest part, and you probably need to work with your accountant, but you no longer have to be doing that. So that is an advantage where your bookkeeping can be done in about 10 to 20 minutes a month with the way the software. A lot of the hangups that people have is, well, it's on the cloud. I don't want my finances on the cloud. Guess what? All your finances are on the cloud. Your bank account is on the cloud. Okay, everything is on the cloud. And if you're worried about security and breaches, you have a better chance of getting ripped off by a waiter that takes your card to the back, scans it somewhere in a restaurant where you never see that credit card, where it goes, than within an online transaction through one of these organizations. Security is very, very, very tight. The second thing I love about it is on when we do invoicing for customers, on the invoicing part. The merchant account is linked to our online billing. So when we bill a customer online, a customer chooses to pay online, the merchant account is already linked. It's already linked to their account, so there is no crediting or debiting that we have to do on that. It's automated. When a customer pays online, that account automatically gets credited. There's nothing we have to do. That saves us. You're saying you're paying 1.85% on a transaction to 3% online on a transaction. That is much cheaper than having somebody keying in where the chances of error of keying in the wrong amount, the wrong type, the wrong account, when you're doing hundreds and thousands of transactions, is much less than all of the stuff you have to do to pay somebody to do it. Invoicing. We have an invoicing policy. We email you right there on the spot when we are on your property. If we have to email you, 80% of all our customers are on auto bill. So we auto bill once a month, and then we go out and service it, and that is done on a separate different. Why? Because we explain to our customers, we have a really high-end service that we need to make affordable. And the only way we can make affordable is by automating everything. That's how we do it. That's how we cut 20% of our cost overall to be able to compete in a marketplace that is continually spray and pray in our market. I don't know where your market is. I'm talking about where our market is. And we have to compete with that. And we are competing with large companies. And what we compete with is we try to compete with the best in the business. So in other words, if we're trying to gain access to customers that traditionally wouldn't buy our type of service, to get them to convert, we have to make that affordable and we have to make it easy. So our billing is automated on most of our customers, except for certain accounts that pay cash when we get there, like restaurants. They want to just pay right off the till and, they want to pay you there. That's what we do there. And we receive the cash right there on the spot and it's a done deal. The account is already credited on mobile. All of our notes are on the invoice. All the chemicals we used are on the invoice. Everything is on the invoice. We email it to you. When we get back, we do batch mailing to all of our customers one time a week. We mail out everything to every customer. Once a month, they get a statement in their email and a statement gets mailed out. That's it. We're not doing invoicing. We're not doing a bunch of stuff in the field that takes time away from the service and being able to service the next stop. The other great thing about software with QuickBooks Online is it's completely mobile from any device, anywhere you can use it. We can do our setting up a customer right there on the spot. It's already set up. There's no need to set up, write the contract, take the contract into the office, have somebody type it up, put it into the computer, wait until it's active. None of that. It's all done in the field, and it empowers the technicians in the field and the people in the field to make good decisions. You set up an account, you do it right there on the spot. You create the estimate for the customer right there. You create the work order. You get it done right there on the spot with the customer. There's no waiting. So one of the other things that we love is if you create multiple routes, then there's two ways to do the accounting and the two ways to do the record keeping for commission purposes, for salary, for hours, for costs. I want to know where my costs are from individually on each route to see if there's any leakage. They have a great thing called classes, and it allows you to create a separate P&L for each individual route, separate from corporate. So now you know what the cost for fuel is, you know what the cost for everything is, for payroll, for everything individually on that one route, and you can pull a P&L for that route and look at where the margins are, where the profit is, where everything is individually. Second, you can also do territory. So if you're doing county and cities and zip codes, you can set it up any way you want to, and you can put it under sub territories. And this way you can look at from another view of how that looks from a sales territory perspective. So what it allows you to do is really, really save a ton of time in the field. Let's see, what else did I have for you? If you have multiple offices, you can, and you want two pieces of accounting, or you want one, or you want two, there's a great software attachment called QVinci, which is what we use for our franchisees to keep track of sales and cost and everything. And what it does is allows you to link all of the units together under one, so you can get one view from an entire environment. You also can get an entire view for sales, everything that's going on. There's the advantage of people like QuickBooks versus other companies is the developers that they have relationships with already making second party software if you need to grow. And what you need to do is you need to be able to scale and scale moderately with the least amount of cost. And with like scheduling software, you can have that completely separate. And I look at scheduling software as just for scheduling. I don't like using scheduling software. And most of the problems I have, and I'm going to discuss this in the second edition of this part, is the scheduling software. The biggest problem I have is they start focusing on doing invoicing, and then at one point you need a traffic manager in the office to handle the software. And that's been my biggest beef with a lot of the companies that design scheduling software, that it isn't easy to use for the guy in the field. And I want to empower the people in the field to make decisions. If you have to go back to that customer because you need to do a follow-up, that from management perspective isn't something that I want to micromanage. I want you to be able to go back 2 and 3 times based on protocols that we've set up and not have to get permission or put it into the office and make sure somebody didn't forget. Right there on the spot, you can make that decision and say, I'm scheduling a follow-up service. It's automatically scheduled. It's on your route. It's on your class. It's on your P&L. And you're responsible for good management in the field. And those are the kind of people that we want to hire. We don't want to hire drones that just go out and just perform services. And then what happened to this follow-up? Why didn't nobody follow? Why is the customer calling into the office complaining that they still have a problem? If you know what the follow-up should be in the industry as a good technician, and if we train you right, you should be able to do that. So the biggest problem I had with scheduling software was the fact that it didn't address it, that it required, they did it from a perspective of a centralized environment, typical to corporate, and that everything is done in that central environment, and then you need now to hire a traffic person. I wanted software to be automated, and I shouldn't be having people do something that software can do. And that's always my beef with software, is that they don't see it from the end user. They see it from a company perspective. And I'm doing something totally different in the industry than a lot of people are doing. And that is hiring brilliant people to do great work in the field. And I want to empower them to do their job. I don't want to micromanage them. I want to encourage them. I want to train them. I want to lift them up, but I don't want to micromanage them. I don't micromanage people. I deal with professionals. And when I hire you and when I get people, I look for people with those characteristics, that they are self-starters and they're willing to work interdependently with each other as part of a team, not as part of an individual or us overlooking everything in the company. We can do that with software. We can say, bring you into the office and says, listen, your cost of good is double what everybody else is. You're either drinking the product, you're either wasting it, or something else is happening here. And we're able to do that. And then we're able to coach, teach, train, correct, do what we ever have to do. But that should be automated. That shouldn't be part of something we have to physically do. And a lot of software can do that. So we're going to be discussing the issue of scheduling software, because that is probably the next biggest question I get overall in the emails that we're getting in. And we do thank you for those emails. We do thank you for those messages on Facebook, for the inquiries, because it does help us understand what you're struggling with and what we're able to do for the industry. I mean, I only have so much experience. I only have so much knowledge. I'm not a know-it-all, although my wife thinks I am, but that's another story. So it's really, really cool what's happening out there. We're getting the calls, we're getting the questions, and I think it's what I've experienced and what I've been able to accomplish. I want to share, and kudos to those people out there that are sharing, that are not being egocentric, that are not being elitist and thinking that other people that don't know are so beneath them. I think at one point in time, we're all ignorant of something. And I think part of this podcast, what the goal is for the industry, is to elevate, raise up, and empower people to do better. And whether you're an independent, whether you're a mid-sized company, the large-sized companies, I'm not worried about. I'm not even catering to them, because, if you've built already a 10-route business and you're doing $1 million a year, you know what you're doing. I mean, you've already figured it out. You've paid the price. The big, large companies, they have all the analysts and they have all the people in the world. It's really the guy who struggles is that entrepreneur, that solopreneur that's wearing 3-4 hats, and he's trying to figure this thing out, how he's more effective, how he can compete. And that's really where my heart is. I'm always a David taking on Goliaths, and I enjoy that more than anything in the world. So, guys, I want to thank you. I'm back, and this podcast should be out on Monday. So I'm recording a little bit early because I got some things I want to take care of, and I'm working on it. I'm going to have some really cool guests of some projects we're working on here in South Florida in the inner city and with public housing, and I'm really excited. I'm just waiting for that to go through, and the people that are involved to bring them on the podcast and talk about the experience, because I think there's a big difference for me between doing something where I make money and doing something with my life that's meaningful. And to me, what's more important, it's what's meaningful. The money is always a byproduct of what you're able to produce and enjoy and help other people with. And there are far more important things in my life that I look at than just making money and doing business. And it really comes down to helping other people. That's what I was created to do. That's what I finally realized that I'm wired to do, what I enjoy doing the most. And I think that when you're in tune with that in your life of what you were really created to do and what you really enjoy doing, and what you find out you enjoy doing with other people, that's what really makes the difference. So thank you for a wonderful experience on this podcast and everything that is going forward. I got some new things we're going to be doing with the podcast that I think it's exciting, and other things that I'm looking at bringing on. But thank you. I've had a lot of time to sit and think for 3 days. So I am super excited now when I have 2 or 3 days of brainstorming to do in bed. It kind of helps me put a lot of things in perspective and refocus. So, it was necessary. I had to bite the bullet, get this done, and before anything got worse. But it was a wonderful opportunity in the end to do a lot of other things. So thank you. Guys, have a great one. Enjoy yourselves. Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.